Good morning, and thank you so much for stepping into my queendom for another exciting episode of Queening with the Empress with me, your host, Patient's Pet Phiri. Every 5 minutes, a child with a cleft lip or palate is born in the world. Smile Train is an international organization that is working in 91 countries worldwide and does over 40,000 operations per year. And the largest number of these are in China and India. In Zimbabwe, we have an amazing lady who is the program director for Smile Train Africa. And for Southern region, her name is Sibusisiwe Yona. We all like to call her Wusi. Wusi, welcome to Queening with the Empress.
Thank you for having me.
So, Wusi, let's get to it. When and how did you join Smile Train Africa?
Okay, so I joined Smile Train in 2017 at the end of the year around this time. And I've been with Smile Train since that time, but I had been working previously for another organization that does clefts. So in this space and in this field, I've been around for about 7 years.
Oh, wow. What does Smile Train actually do?
Okay, so Smile Train is a medical NGO, or some people want to call it a surgical NGO, that specializes in the treatment, or rather focuses on the treatment of cleft lip and palate differences. So it's located in the US, where we are headquartered, and it was started in 1999. And to date, Smile Train has operated on over 1,500,000 patients. So many children with untreated clefts around the world depend on Smile Train to provide this service through our partnerships with various hospitals and healthcare professionals worldwide.
And then as program director for Southern Africa, what does your job entail?
Okay, so like I said, Smile Train is a international charity with a sustainable approach to a single and solvable problem, which is cleft lip and palate surgery. So basically my job is to try to have the patient and the practitioner and the institution meet. Because as we have discussed before, you'll find that you don't really come across people with clefts, but that is because there's very little information that is out there to point them in the right direction of where to go to get treatment. So I am sort of the bridge. I do the partnerships, engagements. I try to facilitate the funding so that the patients can get access to surgery and they can reach our partner hospitals around this region where I work in. So basically, I could call myself a bridge.
Okay, as you bridge, do you work with local hospitals?
Yes, so the primary focus of Smile Train is to actually work with local hospitals. So our model itself is sustainable in the sense that it's the teacher meant to fish model. Okay. So we believe that for us, it's more of us training and building capacity. And through this, we can actually provide the care for cleft patients locally through partner hospitals, which are mostly government hospitals, because you find that there are more of those, but we do work with mission and private hospitals as well. And through this model, we only work with local. In instances where we can't find healthcare professionals who can actually do the cleft surgeries, we do partner with hospitals from other African countries. So it's more of a south to south sort of partnership where we bring other qualified and competent practitioners to come and train the ones that are available locally where they need capacity built.
Okay, so which countries are under your that are under you, because you are the director for Southern Africa? Which countries are you in charge of?
Okay, so in my portfolio, if we look at Southern Africa, we rather look at it from a Smile Train sort of definition of what Southern Africa is. It's not the political definition. That is often what we find when we're looking at the members of the SADC states. So I mainly look at Madagascar, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Mozambique, Malawi, South Africa, Eswatini, Lesotho, and Botswana.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, so we keep talking about cleft and everything. Can you please explain what is a cleft lip and palates?
Okay, so these are called congenital malformations.
Mm-hmm.
So when we say congenital malformations, we mean that it's an occurrence that happens whilst the child is still in utero, whilst you're still being formed. So cleft lips and cleft palates occur when a certain body parts and structures do not fuse together during fetal development. Clefts can involve the lip and the palate and the roof of the mouth, which is called the palate rather, which is made up both of the hard and the soft palate. Around the world, many children will never come across somebody who can give them this kind of surgery. And it's one of the most common birth malformations if we're looking at it in relation to other birth malformations that exist out there. So a cleft is just the failure of the organs to fuse together around the area of the mouth.
Okay, I always thought, until you educated me, I always thought that it was because something, maybe the mother had not eaten something or had done something wrong. And one of the biggest thing was iron. I think it's iron tablets that she didn't have.
Folic acid.
Is that true?
Yeah, so what I can say about that is that, there's a lot of research that is still being done on clefts to find out more information about what causes them, and we can prevent them. So what exists now is more around some of the things that scientists believe that are causes of clefts, and a lot of them focus on environmental factors and genetic factors. So with genetic factors, you find that it's something that runs in the family. And sometimes people think that it doesn't run in their family because they haven't seen a family member with a cleft lip or a cleft palate, but that family member could be long gone. They could have gone to meet their maker a long time ago before we even started existing. So if we're looking at our ancestry, we never met them. It means that maybe somewhere down the line there, in your genealogy, there must be somebody who had a cleft. Or else, environmental factors also speak to things that are closer to home, things that we can see for ourselves. More of the lifestyles that we lead, especially for pregnant women. When they are pregnant, do they drink? Do they smoke? What kind of behaviors or lifestyles do they actually live when they are having their pregnancy, during their pregnancy? So you find that a lot of these mothers who exhibit these behaviors and maybe more at risk of having children with malformations, which is not specifically a cleft, but any malformation that is also common, like maybe club feet or maybe a spina bifida or some other malformation. And we will also throw the cleft into the mix because it's also one of the commonest birth defects. But apart from that, it could also be an environmental factor, depending on the environment where you stay. So some scientists also allude to mining areas, so depending on what is mined there, some of the radiation that comes from mining things like uranium, it has seemed to be a cause of birth malformations. And there's a lot of other things that are being discussed, but no one knows exactly what causes clefts at this point.
How prevalent is it in Zimbabwe?
So in Zimbabwe, we estimate that it's about 250 live births per year, given our population size. So you'll find that this figure is also almost similar to what we would have in most of the countries in this region, because they also have similar demographics. So yeah, I think about 250 live births, yeah.
Oh, wow. And then when we spoke previously, we spoke about the many thoughts and myths and taboos that people associate cleft with in our communities. Can you please highlight some of them here?
Okay, so there's a lot that is said about clefts. So some of it is actually quite shocking when you hear it. I remember one time when I went to visit one of our former patients who is now about 13, she's doing very well. She had a cleft lip surgery, and I asked the mom, I said, Mom, what do you think might have caused the cleft? What did you think when you saw the baby with the cleft? And then she said, when I was pregnant, I used to like eating crickets a lot, crickets. I think some people call them magurwe in Shona, those noisy little insects. Yeah, so she said that because when I was pregnant, I used to like eating crickets, and the crickets have a cleft. If you look at a cricket, you can see that it has a cleft. So she thought that maybe it could be something that also caused her child to be born with a cleft. And then some people talk about witchcraft. They think maybe the mother or some family members where that child is born are witches. This is why they get clefts. So as punishment from God for being witches, then you give birth to a child with a cleft. And then the witchcraft aspect can be seen on two sides. And it can be that somebody in the family or in the community also bewitched the child to be born with a cleft. And then some people think it's an injury, something that happens when maybe the child is delivered at home or unsupervised, like not in a medical institution. Some people believe that maybe somewhat the child was dropped. And one example, I have another patient in Zambia who was an alcoholic. She delivered the child on her own. And after she delivered the child on her own, she saw the child and then she thought she had dropped the child because she gave birth when she was drunk. So it goes back to what I said about the lifestyle when you are pregnant. This lady is a clear alcoholic, and then the child was even adopted by her sister so that they can better take care of the child. So you find that there are so many things that surround clefts, and it's all because people are ignorant of what it really is. And also when people are afraid of something, they tend to name it whatever they think it should be. In their eyes, they name the fear. So that name can be the witchcraft, it can be the curses, it can be you drop the child, you are a reckless mother, you are negligent, things like that.
Okay, so what can we call cleft a disability?
Yeah, that's another debate altogether. So some scientists want to call it a disability, but what has been concluded so far is that it can lead to a disability. The cleft itself is not a disability, it's just a malformation, but it can lead to a disability. So you find that some of the effects of not having your cleft treated are that you can have speaking difficulties, and you would need like a speech therapist to guide you through so that you can be able to speak properly, especially for children who have cleft palates. So if you come across an adult who still has a cleft palate, you'll find that they have difficulty saying certain words, and they're not confident people, and they tend to withdraw themselves from society because people don't understand what they're saying, so they feel bad. So the sounds that come out of their mouth are sort of nasalized sounds, which are not very clear, and people always ask them to repeat what they're saying. So this becomes very frustrating. And oftentimes you find that also not having an untreated cleft can also lead to ear infections, and it can also actually cause permanent ear damage where you can actually lose your hearing. So that's why we are saying that they can lead to a disability, but they themselves, the clefts, we cannot call them a disability for now, until maybe some other theory has been brought up and we can say maybe this is the new way of defining a cleft. But for now, no.
And then in Zimbabwe, where are we reporting most of our cases and maybe the least of our cases? Do you have that information?
Okay, so from our Smile Train database, I think the most of the cases come from Manicaland and random parts of Manicaland. I cannot pinpoint a particular village or particular district for now, but what I can say that in our database, we find that a lot of patients come from Manicaland, and we still don't know why that is. And it could boil down to so many things, some of the environmental factors, which you can't really name at the moment, but that's one of the areas where we find we have a lot of clefts.
And then the lowest?
The lowest for now, I can say, is Masvingo, but that's not because there are no people living with clefts in Masvingo. I think it's just because people don't get enough information and they probably don't show up at the hospital. So it's an issue of data. You work with the data that you have. You can't make up things and say, in Masvingo it's like this, there are no clefts, because you really don't know whether they are there or not.
So tell me about the process of, I don't know if it's called reconstruction or the operation. Yeah. It's a reconstruction. What is the process?
Yeah, it's reconstruction.
if I do have my daughter, my son, or a niece or a relative, and they have a cleft, what is the process from the start to the end? How long is the operation? How much do I pay? And things like that.
Okay, so clefts can be treated. That's the number one thing that I want to say, because a lot of people think that it's an act of God and there's nothing that can be done, but clefts can be treated. So reconstructive surgery for clefts has evolved more than half a century since it was started. And today's techniques and procedures have come a very long way. So the surgery today is simple and the transformation is also immediate, because when you do see a child go into the theater and come out a different person, it's immediate. And then patients see their smile for the first time, some cry, some jump up for joy, some can't stop looking at themselves in the mirror. So basically we have different types of clefts. We do have what is called a unilateral cleft, and we do have what is called a bilateral cleft. So a unilateral cleft, for example, is when you have the cleft opening on one side of your mouth. It can be either on your left side or on your right side. And usually it can either be complete or incomplete. When we say complete, it means that it can be something that where you see the opening ending up to somewhere here, and then when it's complete, goes all the way into your nasal cavity. So basically, for this type of surgery, it can take up to 45 minutes to 1 hour when you have a surgeon who is really skilled in doing cleft surgeries, who has got a lot of experience. Like the surgeon that we work with here in Zimbabwe, Dr. Manana, is very good at it. So you find that it can take about 45 minutes to 1 hour. And then for a bilateral cleft, when you have the opening on both sides, on this side and on that side, you find that that can be a little bit more complicated. And it can take you up to 2 hours, depending on the severity of what it looks like inside. Because when we look at clefts, it's not just what you see on the top of the mouth. It goes inside. The anatomy of the inside of your mouth counts as well, because the malformation sometimes starts from inside the mouth and then it comes up out here. So what you see out here is not really a reflection of what's happening in the mouth. So depending on what it looks like in the mouth, it can take up to 2 hours. And so does the cleft palate, which is the opening in the roof of your mouth, where we call the palate. So the palate, you find that I said we have two types of palates. We have one hard palate, which is here. If you put your tongue up, immediately up, you find that there's a hard part there. That's called the hard palate. So when you put your tongue further back as if you're going to the throat, you find that there's a softer area that feels kind of mushy if you move your tongue around in there. You find that this soft palate as well can also have a cleft. So basically you find that if the cleft is coming from the hard palate all the way down to the soft palate, that's called a complete cleft, and it can take a while for you to do the surgery. And that hard palate as well, if it's only there around the hard palate, you find that it still takes quite a bit. And that's a more complicated surgery. So it can take up to 2 hours or more, depending on the experience of the surgeon and on the severity of the malformation itself.
And then how much do I pay?
Okay, so if you are being treated under the Smile Train program, it's free. Free. You don't pay anything. I want your money. And if you hear anybody advertising saying that it's Smile Train doing a program, please can you register with $20? Please can you call me immediately? Because we don't charge for registration. We don't charge for the surgery. We don't charge for any post-operative follow-up care that we do. You just come to the hospital, and our partnership with the hospital, like Harare Hospital, for instance, or City Med in Chitungisa, that is where we will take care of those costs for you, so that you are not encumbered by the payment, so that the payment itself is not a deterrent to you receiving care.
So I'm from Flabusi, and if I know of someone in Flabusi and you're talking about Harare Hospital in Chitungwiza, what are the logistics? Is that catered for, or what happens?
Okay, so unfortunately in Zimbabwe, because we don't have a lot of surgeons who can do this procedure, you find that all our programs are currently concentrated in Harare. Okay. Although we are trying to move out into the other areas, very soon we are going to be having a partnership with Beit Cure Hospital, which has opened up in Matebeleland. And it will bring us closer maybe to the people from Filabusi as well. But at the same time, if somebody comes to Harare, as Smile Train, we do have a provision for you to have transport catered for. So what we do is we normally just reimburse you your transport, and then you come. In instances where you cannot even find the money, because we find some patients end up selling their household goods so that they can be able to come for the surgery because they don't have transportation money. In those instances where you cannot find the money, we will treat it by patient basis, where we will look at your situation, assess it, and if there's a way for us to send you the money beforehand or to go and pay the bus, so that when the bus comes to your village, you just board the bus, they will have your name. This is how we do it sometimes with the patients. So it just depends on where you live and how easy it is for you to, easy or difficult it is for you to come to Harare. But we do have some provisions for that.
No payment.
No payment.
Oh, wow. Okay. And then in your experience, what is the success rate of these operations?
Okay, so for the success rate, I will look at it two ways.
Mm-hmm.
For us, if you enter the theater and then you are operated on and you come out, it's a success. Because like I said, when you have an opening here, if you go into the theater and they sew you up and you come out without the opening, for us, it's a success.
Okay.
This is why we say the results are immediate for us. Where I say it's not a success is when maybe sometimes we lose patients, which is really rare.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually, in my region, I don't know if we ever lost a patient. I think we lost one patient.
Wow.
Due to some complications that happened there, which is part of everything has got a risk in it. And I'm not saying this to make you scared, but I'm trying to tell you the realities. So out of all the patients we've operated on in this region, we have lost one. So if we have lost that patient, that's where I would count the failure. Apart from that, we've never lost a patient, and we do well to make sure that patients are safe. That's why you see that if we do contact you and you contact us, we do have some rules that you need to follow before you have the surgery so that your safety can be guaranteed, and also the work of the surgeons themselves and the Cleft team can be made much easier. So basically, we ask you to bring a child of a certain weight, which is 5 kgs and above. And we also ask you to come without an infection. So if you have any infection, whether it's a respiratory infection or what, we will not operate you until you feel better. But this is for you to feel safe. So I know a lot of parents have this anxiety of, I cannot have my child treated. But think about it this way, that we are trying to keep you safe. We want the baby to come out of the theater, and we want you to be happy. We want you to have smiles on your faces when you see your child. So this is why we have those rules. And we communicate these rules to everyone who contacts us wanting surgery, and we tell them what they need to expect, what they should do to prepare for the surgery, or for the sake of keeping everyone safe.
When a baby is born with a cleft, we'll see when is the best time to operate? To wait till they're older or immediately?
When they're younger is best. Why? Because remember what we were talking about the myths that people have about cleft, the things that they think about when they see someone with a cleft. Some children don't even want to play with other children with clefts, and those children end up isolated, and they end up not going to school, and they have eating difficulties, which means that they don't grow at the same pace as their counterparts. So you find that we want it to be done early, especially for the cleft lip. For those parents who hide their children in the house, it would be good for your child to have the operation done very early, so that you don't need to feel ashamed of having that child, and you don't need to feel obligated to be explaining to every passing stranger why your child has an opening there. So at the end of the day, if you do it early, then you avoid all these things. Then socially, the child is also not put in a space where they are made to feel isolated or they are ostracized because of how they look. So it comes back to what I said about fears. So people will fear you because they don't really understand why you look like that. So to avoid that, we say come early. So we try to aim to have children operated on by 3 months, because this is when it's safest to do so. So when they are 3 months, they come, they have their operation. So if it's a child with a combo, and by combo I mean with a lip and a palate, we first operate on the lip so that we can try to save you all that anguish of having to explain to people why the child is like that and things like that. And then we operate on the palate from 6 months or a year after the first surgery just for safety reasons as well. So basically, when you are young, it's better. When you are older, it's difficult for us to operate, especially on the palate, because some of the gains that come with operating a cleft palate, like improving your speech, making sure that your speech develops properly, they are already lost if you have the operation when you are older. So when you are younger, it's easier for us to train you so that you can produce better speech, and to avoid those ear infections that I mentioned. It's better for us to do it when you are young.
Is there a support group for clefts?
Okay, for the moment, we don't have a support group, but we are working on creating one. So we do have a lady who is working with us who has got a big support group in the United States, and she herself is a mother with a child who had a cleft, or of a child who had a cleft, and we are going to be working with her to also try to start these support groups here with us. But we do have people who work with us who can counsel patients. I myself do a lot of counseling for our patients, and until we have that support group, you can still get assistance if you need someone to talk to and to explain to you some things. We can always do that for you. But the support group, I agree with this. It really, really helps patients cope with the difficulty of having a child with a cleft, and also knowing that some people are experiencing the same. They can find quite a lot of strength out of that community.
How can people get in touch with you, Wasim?
Okay, so I am found on 2 numbers. So you can call me on 0719 891711 or 078 389 1711. I'll repeat those again. 0719 891711 or 078 389 1711. You can contact us there, or if you go to the Smile Train website or Facebook page and you post your message there, we will always reply you.
Okay, how many children do you now have named after you?
Okay, so like I said, I've got 7 years working in Cleft. So whilst I was working in the DRC, I actually have about 7 kids that have been named after me. Because in Congo, it's a tradition. If somebody does something good to you, you bless them by naming the child after you, after them, sorry. So there are a lot of children named Yona. Unfortunately, they named everyone after my surname, but which is fine, because my name just simply means Jonah, the same Jonah you find in the Bible, the one who was swallowed by the fish. So whether they are girls or boys, they are just named Yona. And I'm very grateful. It really makes me happy to know that I'm making an impact in someone's life. And one of the babies actually named Yona Fifi, because I used to work with one of my friends named Fideli. We used to call her Fifi. So one of the babies is named Yona Fideli. So I'm very grateful to God that I can be able to do something that impacts someone's life. And all those Yonas, I wish them all the success in the world.
I was going to ask you, what is the best part of your job?
Yeah, besides what I've said, I think, you know, this world is a very cruel place. You know, there are so many things that happen out there where you question, so what are we doing here? Why are we here? Why is life so hard? But when you can make a small difference in someone's life, it makes you go back to why you're a human being. If you can still feel somebody for somebody who's not your relative, who's not your child, who's not your friend, somebody who you just met and you make friends with them, you help them. I don't know. I think I'm creating doctors, nurses out there. I'm creating program directors, because I think to me, it's a chance for that person to have a different life than what they would have had if they'd grown up with the Cleft. So I'm always grateful for that. And besides that, I also love traveling, because it gets me to see a lot of cultures out there. I've eaten the food from Madagascar. I've eaten food from Mozambique. I know the way that people behave, how they think, and you get to learn a lot about being African. So I really like that about my job as well.
Okay, so to anyone who's listening and they didn't know about the cleft, or they have someone with a cleft at home and they didn't know that there was such assistance readily available, what would your final words to them be before we close?
Okay, so I want to say this. Listen to me very carefully. A cleft is not a curse. It's not a sin. It's not anybody's infidelity in the relationship. It's just an occurrence. It happens. So you've seen a lot of people with disabilities who look different. I have never seen anybody discriminating those people. I know they're discriminated against, but outrightly where they are hidden in the house, this is not there anymore. So we want to move away from this mindset of being afraid of things we don't understand. This is why we are here, to help you understand what a cleft is, how it can be treated. The mouth is there, it's just ill-formed. So the doctors will open and they will close properly the way it was supposed to close naturally. If you know someone with a cleft, if you are someone with a cleft, please don't be ashamed, don't be afraid. You can come and we can assist you. We can assist you for free. If you have any questions, concerns, you can call me, text me, I can call you back and we can talk about it. But don't hide in the house, because you are probably hiding somebody who can cure AIDS, who can even cure coronavirus there where you are hiding that person in the house. So I encourage and urge you to really come to the hospital, come to us, and we'll help you change your situation so that you can have a normal life. As much as we want to think that some people will be brave and they'll go out there with their clefts and they will just ignore what people say, those people are there, but it's not always all of them. Sometimes that anguish and that fear and that ostracization that they face can lead people to actually go down very sad lives. Nobody wants to live their lives in sadness, in fear, alone. Being lonely itself is a painful thing. I urge you to bring the children, bring yourself if you're an adult, and let us treat you.
Wow. I told you she's a powerful woman. She's a powerful woman. Thank you so much, Busi. Thank you so much for sharing that information. May you continue doing amazing work, changing lives and putting smiles on people's faces. And here's to more Yonas being born.
I like that. Thank you so much for having me. And I hope we got through to someone. And I just wish that it were easier for us to spot children with clefts or adults with clefts, but we are working on it. One day it will be something that it will be nothing actually, because for now it's something because people still have opinions about it. But one day I wish it could just be nothing. I wish it could just be, oh, the child has a cleft, please go to the hospital. So I'm waiting for that day.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Patience, for having me.
Thank you so much, Sibusisiwe Yona, for coming onto the show and talking about a cleft lip and palate. When I met her a few weeks ago, we had the conversation about clefts. And I realized that I had come from a place of privilege where, because I don't see many people with a cleft, I did not think about it. I did not think about the trouble that they go through, the way that we look at them as people who think we are fully formed, what they have to go through and what their families go through. During the meeting, we had the opportunity of parents coming in. We had two sets of parents coming in. One had had their son, her son had a restoration surgery, and then the others were looking forward to a surgery and listening to their stories of what they had to go through in their communities, in their families, because they'd given birth to a beautiful baby with a cleft. I think the entire room was brought to tears, because there was one who shared her story and said that she had stopped talking to her in-laws because they assumed that there was some witchcraft involved and things like that. So those are the things that we don't think about. And one of the powerful things that was said that day was, it's not a birth defect, it is a birth difference. Therefore, it can be, like she said, she did share, but with the 45 minutes, 2 hours can change the whole thing. So it can be cured. Please, if you have family, if you have a neighbor, if you know somebody, tell them about Smile Train, tell them about Sibusisiwe Yona. It's for free, they provide for everything. There is no reason for us to still have clefts in 2020 when there is resources that are put out to help. And I would appeal to the government to actually push this and make it a thing. Make sure that every hospital, wherever it is, be it in the city, be it in the rural areas, be it in the district, wherever it is, ube nolwazi on clefts, so that when a baby is born with a cleft, they know where to direct them and they are not shocked, or they also say, I don't know what happened. So I think from me today is, let's be kind to each other. Let's assist each other. Let's put the word out. A cleft can be fixed. A cleft can be fixed. Let's remember that. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to Site ZW, be it on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. Go to our website so that you can always, always, always be on the pulse with what's happening around you. From me and everybody else behind the crew, stay safe, everybody. Till next week. Bye.